class today. um, Mr. Shansi, did you get the link for
Hi, Rabbi. I haven't received it yet.
okay, I'm going to put it in a chat right now for you.
Thank you.
Um, I wanted us to go back to the book of Exodus and continue from where we stopped, but I was going over our series and I thought it would be better if I closed the series with this last episode. Thank you for the reminder to record. Wow. Okay, so yes, so to close it off properly, I decided that we do today's lesson. How beautiful are your tents, O Jacob? I got the idea from a statement that Madam Cynthia made last week when we were looking at the psyche and the mindset of the Levite. And Madam Cynthia was arguing, wanted to know how he was raised, because she was making a point that she believes that affected him. So that triggered something, and it brought me to Samson. And I want us to look at Samson's narrative, just the first chapter of his annunciation, and then see what we can pick out from that narrative and how it speaks. Because you have Samson is the last story, and then you have a story of the Levite who opened his mouth too wide and he fell in it. Before you have the Pilegesh, what we were talking about, the idols of Michal, and then the concubine. So I want us to look at the book of Judges. We're going to look at Samson. It's a familiar narrative, and I want us to see what we can pick out from that. I think those on YouTube are going to see that white strip on my screen. I have to reboot to get it off, but I can't do that because it would disrupt everything. But let's look at the text. As usual, we know this narrative so well, and we know the problem with narratives that we know too well. It's difficult to see the nuances. It's difficult to read it without what word am I looking for? Without reference to what is in your head. So let's read it without all of that, and let's see what we come up with. Making sure this thing is going on. Okay. Judges 13. And the children of Israel continued to do that which displeased Yah, And Yah delivered them into the hand of the Philistines 40 years. And there was one man from Zorah, from the family of the Danites, whose name was Manoah. And his wife was barren and had not born. So off the back, we're given names. Manoah, his name means rest or quiet. To rest. You see Noah in there. Noah. He's called Noah because he would bring rest. This one here is called Manoah. So his name means rest or quiet. We are told that he is married. It means that he has a wife. We are told that his wife was barren and had not born. I don't know why you tell me somebody is barren and then you explain the effects of that. By telling me she's barren, I already know that she hasn't born. So why tell me? Why the emphasis? We'll find out. Does anything stand out to you about Manoah? Mr. Shanti is asking, did Yah close her womb? Yes, he did. Yes. That's the emphasis. We'll see that very shortly. Okay. Anything stands out? I read this first line or verses 2, and I have this uneasy feeling in my stomach. Mr. D, you want to say something, but it looks like you're having sound issues. Madam Massey says name. Yes, the name. The name. Yes, the name is bothering me. Notice the wife's name is not mentioned.
Rabbi.
Mr. Drew.
Also, like I said, because I haven't read all the way up to Judges 13, is that the children of Israel continue to do that which displeased the Lord. It's like maybe the Most High had delivered them from something previously at a shorter span, but now they're into whatever they're doing. Is that it's 40 years now? It seems like the time limit is going up. You know what I'm saying? Like it's more time of suffering for what they're doing.
What they're doing, okay. Awesome. When I hear the phrase, whose name was Manoah, his wife is mentioned, but the wife's name is not mentioned. It makes me want to pay very close attention to the man. We come to 1 Samuel 25. And Samuel died, and all Israel gathered and lamented him, and they buried him in the house of Ramah, in his house in Ramah. And David arose and went down to the desert of Paran. And there was a man in Maon whose possessions were in Carmel, very wealthy man. And the man was very great, and he had 3,000 sheep and 1,000 goats. And he was, while sharing his sheep, in Carmel. And the man's name was Nabal. And his wife's name was Abigail. Here, husband and wife, they're mentioned. We know their names. In Judges 13, only the man is mentioned. The woman is not mentioned, even though she's going to carry this savior, pretty much. So she's playing quite an important role here in the 40 years of the Judges. But why eliminate her name? That's why I get butterflies in my stomach. The spotlight is being put on this person. Put that in your spirit. So this man, in the book of Samuel, his name was Nabal, his wife's name was Abigail, and the woman was of good sense and of beautiful form, but the man was hard and evil and of evil deeds, and he was a Calebite. Nabal's name actually means disgusting one. I am praying this was an alias. I'm praying it was his nickname. I'm praying that. Abigail is what we call a theophoric name. It has the name of Yah. So Avi means father. Gail is joy. Avi usually can stand for Yud He Vav He. No. So we can say father's joy or Yah's joy. The man's name, Nabal, tells us a lot about him. Caleb in Hebrew is a dog. So people translate this appellation, they translate it as an appellation that, because the guy is disgusting, he's also a dog. So it's to give us a name, and we see that the person is behaving as his namesake. Their names can give us a lot of data in a narrative, especially when names that we should know are removed. David helped this guy out. And when it was time to kind of pay back, he refused. And David's youth came and spoke to Nabal according to all these words in David's name, and they rested. And Nabal answered David's servant and said, "Who is David? And who is the son of Jesse? Nowadays, there are many slaves who break away, each one from his master. Now shall I take my bread and my water and my meal, which I have cooked for my shearers, and shall I give them to people of whom I know not whence they are?" This guy is arrogant. This is how he talks. We call him the dog. His namesake. So David gets the message. He's pissed off. He is coming to wipe them all out. Abigail goes to meet with David because he knows that they are in trouble. And when Abigail gets to David, this is the conversation that took place. And Abigail saw David, and she hastened and leaned off the donkey, and she fell on her face before David and prostrated herself on the ground. And she fell at his feet and said, "In me alone, my Lord, is the iniquity. Now let your handmaid speak into your ears, and hearken to the words of your handmaid." I wish our Abraham character in our Judges 19 narrative would have used such words to cool down the angry mob, just as David is coming with his people, angry mob as well. Let not my Lord take heed of this base fellow of Nabal, for like his name, so is he. Nabal is his name, and ungratefulness is within him. So we see that the guy is acting out his name. So names are important, very important, especially when a narrator chooses to use a name to give us insight into a narrative. Whose name was Manoah? Pay attention to that. The woman is very important, but she's not mentioned. Any questions with this background before we look at the details? Okay.
Brother Basil?
Madam
Hi.
Cynthia, yes.
Right. I know you're talking about the names and stuff, but the thing that also stood out to me was just before, I think for me it's not the names, the what you just went off. It was not that, it was when Yah delivered them to the Philistines for 40 years.
Oh, yes.
Like what?
Because they were bad. They were not keeping they would break away from Yah, they will repent, Yah will bring a judge to save them, and then they will go back to their old ways. The Philistines will come and rule them, and then they will repent, another judge will come and save them. So it was just back and forth like that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, and the children of Israel continued to do that which displeased the Lord, or Yah, and Yah delivered them into the hand of the Philistines 40 years. And there was one man from Zorah, from the family of the Danites, whose name was Manoah, and his wife was barren and had not borne. And an angel of Yah appeared to the woman and said to her, Behold now, you are barren and you have not borne. He is going to give her the reason why she is being barren. And you shall conceive and bear a son. Consequently, beware now and do not drink wine or strong drink, and do not eat any unclean thing, because you shall conceive and bear a son, and a razor shall not come upon his head, for a Nazirite to Elohim shall the lad be from the womb, and he will begin to save Israel from the hand of the Philistines. I want to focus on verses 4 and 5. This woman, let me rephrase that. Manoah's wife gets a visitation. The angel is going to announce something to her. He explains why she's been barren. Yah had caused it because there's a Samson that she needs to give birth to. Because you're going to give birth to this son, beware And do not drink wine or strong drink. Do not eat any unclean thing, because you shall conceive and bear a son, and a razor shall not come upon his head. For a Nazirite to Elohim shall the lad be from the womb, and he will begin to save Israel from the hand of the Philistines. This is what the mother is not allowed to do. And then we get to number 4, the mission of this child that is coming. What do we know about a Nazirite? Number 6. Yah spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, and you shall say to them, a man or woman who sets himself apart by making a Nazirite vow to abstain for the sake of Yah, he shall abstain from new wine and aged wine. He shall not drink even vinegar made from new wine or aged wine, nor shall he drink anything in which grapes have been steeped. Is steeped or steeped? And he shall eat neither fresh grapes nor dried ones. That's difficult. For the entire duration of his abstinence, he shall not eat any product of the grapevine, from seeds to skins, all the days of his vow of abstinence. No razor shall pass over his head, until the completion of the term that he abstains for the sake of Yah. It shall be sacred, and he shall allow the growth of the hair of his head to grow wild, all the days that he abstains for Yah. He shall not come into contact with the dead. To his father, to his mother, to his brother, or to his sister. When you take this vow, and even your closest relatives die, you cannot go close to them. He shall not defile himself if they die, for the crown of his Elohim is upon his head. For the entire duration of his abstinence, he is holy to Yah. This is what we know about the Nazirite vow. Then I am so confused. I'm so confused with number 4. Why is number 4 problematic here?
Because Yah delivered them to the Philistines.
No, not yet. That hasn't happened.
That hasn't happened yet.
So it hasn't happened yet.
We got to wait for this kid to be born and raised up before we get delivered, no? Like, there's a long time waiting.
Correct. Yes.
For this to happen.
Yes. What is wrong with number 4? It doesn't make any sense.
Could it also be a prophecy that he will only start but not finish?
Okay. Correct, because it's a process. Yes.
Rabbi,
Yes, Madam Bridget, go ahead, please.
yes, well, saving Israel from the hand of the Philistines, wouldn't that involve violence and then
Okay. Yeah.
consequently killing, and then
Okay.
when you're in contact with
the dead?
dead bodies?
Correct. So you give me an announcement that my son is going to be a Nazir. I just read what the Nazir doesn't have to do, and one of the things that he cannot do is have contact with the dead. Well, then you turn around and you tell me that this guy is going to be a Nazir, and he's going to begin to save Israel from the hands of the Philistines. Last time I checked, they were not using drones. No, they're not using snipers. It's hand-to-hand combat. And when he hits somebody, the person dies. What just happened? He's in contact with the dead. So off the back, I am reading, I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. It makes no sense. Put that in your spirit. That's the first difficulty.
Rabbi, this is Marie.
Madam
I
Marie.
have two questions. In number 4, it says he will begin, right?
Correct.
Were there other instructions as to what that begin would entail? Like what exactly would he begin to do in order to save Israel? And also, is he the one really saving Israel? It's Yah who saves Israel, right? So, and I understand that Yah anointed him for this position,
Okay.
but the instructions aren't clear as to what that beginning entails. And secondly, I've always had a question about why grapes were chosen as part of his restrictions.
Okay.
Even like not necessarily in the wine form, but the plant itself that that the Nazirs had to restrict themselves from even touching. I just wanted to know if there's a significance for that.
Significance. Awesome. Yes, we're going to look at why the grapes. Also, yes, he's going to begin. What would trigger that? How would we know? I think the only person who can answer that is the mother. Because mothers know a lot, they just don't share. So we don't get the details, Madam Marie. We don't get it here. Yeah, it doesn't tell us. But why the grapes? We're going to see that very shortly.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Okay, so we see the problems. Now she's received a message. Can someone confirm that we're on YouTube? Oh yeah, we are. Okay, cool. Now we see the message that she gets. Okay, we've seen the difficulties. Let's go on. And the woman came and said to her husband, saying, now, look at the picture. Who does the angel come to? It came to the woman. Let me change that. It came to the character in the narrative whose name we don't know. The character whose name we know, the angel doesn't come to him. Okay. And the woman came. Let's go back. Let's go back. Let me see something. Look at verses 2. The man is, we get the man's name, and his wife was barren. She's addressed as his wife. Put that in your spirit. It is his wife. Don't forget that. Okay, now when we get to verses 6, this is what we're told. And the woman, okay, I'm already offended, but let's move on. And the woman came and said to her husband, saying, a man of Elohim came to me, and his appearance was like the appearance of an angel of Elohim. Very awesome. And I did not ask him from where he was, and his name he did not tell me. Nice. And he said to me, behold, you shall conceive and bear a son. And now do not drink wine or strong drink. Do not eat anything unclean. For a Nazirite to Elohim shall the lad be from the womb until the day of his death. Red flags. What do you see? What's wrong with what she's saying?
What does a Nazarite have to do with not eating anything unclean and not drinking any wine or strong drink?
Okay, so Numbers tells us, it doesn't explain to us, but Numbers tells us these are the restrictions if you take a Nazirite vow.
He didn't say. He didn't say that the child be Nazarite. Did the angel? Did the angel actually say the words Nazarite?
Let's go back and check. I think yes, he said it.
He did say it, yeah?
He did say it. Yeah. Verses 5. For a Nazarite to Elohim shall the lad be from the womb. So yes, the angel did say it.
So, Rabbi, it appears as if they're speaking about the Messiah, about a Messiah. And I can see how this is twisted to be
Okay.
Jesus.
Okay, yes. It's talking about, a figure that is going to come and be a savior. Absolutely. It's going to save the people. So, yes, you can say it's messianic. You can. But that's not what it's saying. Yes, go ahead, Madam Cynthia.
Did he say from the womb until the day of his death? Where did the death bit come through? It mentioned the womb. Sorry, I'm just trying to work it out.
Correct. No, yeah, it's true. What she's saying about till death, yes. He's going to be a Nazarite throughout his life.
So Nazarite had to be, so just to get it clear in my head, a Nazarite was till death, was it? It wasn't a period of time that you abstained from those things.
No. Somebody can take a Nazarite vow and say, I'm going to be a Nazarite for the whole year. After the year, right, it goes out. But this guy, the angel is saying that he doesn't have that option to say that, okay, I check out of this. No. He's a Nazarite from the womb till he dies.
Okay.
Look at it. There's something wrong with what's happening here. You have to follow. You have to read carefully. So remember, we're having a conversation. The angel tells Mrs. Manoah something, gives her some information. Okay. Now the text has moved from that scene, and now we see Mrs. Manoah running home to come and tell information that the angel said to her. What do we have to pay attention to?
It's to her. She's not like, if it's from the womb, she can't eat it or drink it. No?
No.
She's not allowed to have these things, is she, from the womb? Because when she's carrying him, she's not allowed to have these things as well? I'm presuming?
Correct, yes, but we're not there yet.
Oh, sorry.
You have a good point. We're not there yet. What, according to our studying of Tanakh, what should we be looking out for?
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi. What I'm noticing is that she doesn't say exactly what the angel told her, because when you read it, he told her that she was barren. She doesn't say anything about telling her husband, like, yes, okay, we are barren, that's why I can't have a kid.
Okay.
That's the first thing I noticed. And then I noticed something about them being that she may have been eating something that was unclean, because what was the point of telling her?
Okay.
Don't eat any unclean thing.
Okay, awesome. Very good. How many things did the angel say? Four, correct? We listed 4 things that the angel said to Mrs. Manoah. When Mrs. Manoah is narrating what the angel said, how many things did she mention?
Just 2.
Just 2.
You said Yalak.
So I think this is a question for women. Why did she do that?
She didn't commit herself to the others.
She did come, okay. Why would you hide a razor shall not come upon his head? Not hide, but why would you not tell? A razor shall come upon his head. He will begin to save Israel from the hand of the Philistines.
You might want to do stuff with his hair.
The things that she mentioned or could be the things that the husband may be guilty of, like maybe he's a alcoholic and go around and eat unclean things, and she don't want him to bring it around her. Whereas the other 2 things, she could deal with them on her own.
Okay.
Much. The other one would be you would begin to save Israel. I think the expectation on your child.
Expectation.
As a mother. Yeah, like it'd be quite. It's loaded, isn't it? You begin to save Israel from the hand of the Philistines. It would be like the expectations, the weight on your shoulder. 1 as a mother to bring up this child who's going to be saving Israel, and 2 on the child.
Rabbi,
Okay, awesome. Madam Jew.
I think the 2 that she mentioned were things that she had to do. Those were things that she had to change her dietary rules, and she couldn't drink or eat. Those were just pertaining to her and her womb. The other things, the razor now, that came later with the baby. And she hadn't had the baby yet, so she's preparing the womb for the baby by not having the strong drink or eating the unclean thing.
Okay, awesome. Anybody else? Why? If I say this, I give out the answer. It will make the class fun. Let's see.
Go ahead, Rabbi. We're not listening to what to say.
Hey, Rabbi.
Yes.
Maybe, I'm going from a previous lesson you did. What happened is men have to know what to do, step A, B, C, and D. But women don't need all that. Just give her the full, give her the gloss over the package, and then they can figure it out on their own. You know what I'm saying? She already knew what the angel said, so I think, it might be a possibility where she can just go ahead and just get it done and cross over. Exactly. It's over. You know what to do. You got it. I'm a woman. I got it.
Okay. Awesome. What is the meaning of the man's name? The man. What was his name? Manoah. What was the meaning? The 2 meanings. Quiet and rest, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. What will be the negative
Rabbi, this Mary.
No.
Madam Marie, yes, go ahead.
I'm thinking she's quite prudent in what she shares with her husband.
Okay.
She doesn't want him to get into a tizzy, so to speak. Especially the last one, the last number 4. And she doesn't want him to go ahead of schedule because the baby is still not born yet. And she wants that 9 months of peace before the dam breaks, so to speak. And so she holds the last 2 to herself because it's really not necessary for him to know that right now. And for him to start planning things, start blabbering things in the community.
Correct.
The community is going to be in an uproar over this thing, and people are going to get hopeful, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But she just wants that pregnancy to be peaceful. And so she holds the last two pieces of information to herself. And she's quite prudent in when she chooses to tell him the rest of the information that the angel told her. So I think she's quite smart, because she's saving herself a lot of headaches.
Correct. So this is a man who, his name means quiet, rest or quiet, but the negative effect of that name is somebody who talks too much. So we see that she's... Go ahead, Madam Drew.
And if anything is going to break your rest and your quiet, it's going to be a baby. So he may not have been, he's used to sleeping all night, and if he's doing his thing in a quiet way and moving around in a certain restful kind of life, the worst thing that you can do to ruin that is to have a baby. So I think maybe she being very prudent, like the other sister said, as not to ruffle his quiet feathers by telling them that we're going to have a baby real soon that's going to really change your quiet.
Yes. So you want to keep this on the low, on the quiet. So she does. Well, there's two things that he said. And, well, pretty much it was 4, not 2. But she only gives 2. Okay, put that in your spirit.
Brother Basil,
yes.
just before you go on, can I ask you, what was, in terms of at the time, the culture, what was the culture for hair, in terms of men's hair? Was it common to...
No, it wasn't common to let it grow wild, like that of a Nazirite.
Right, okay.
Yes, it wasn't common.
It wasn't common.
Okay. So when someone took a Nazirite vow, you would know that this person has taken a Nazirite vow. You would know.
Rabbi.
Yes, sir.
From the looks of this, I just have to ask a kind of a funny question.
Yes.
But this means that this is more than likely a woman of color, because like dealing with my grandmother and the people in my life, my wife. This sounds like something my wife would say to me. Like she would tell me part of it because she says that I have selective memory. So it seems like she's only giving him what would be good in his mind, like what he's able to pretty much handle. So you think that these were,
maybe if somebody can make the argument, maybe. I think women in general, they do that. They know their partners, so they know what to say, how much to say, what not to say, what they will listen to. He just knows. Okay.
Rabbi, one more thing. Sorry.
Yes, Madam Mary. No problem. Go ahead.
I'm wondering about, like, on an esoteric level, I'm wondering about the soul who chose to take this appointment, this to come into fulfill this assignment.
This assignment, yes.
Can you shed any light on that?
Actually, no. Maybe after the class. You would take me somewhere.
Okay.
Yes, maybe after the class we can look at that.
Rabbi?
Madam Jew.
Rabbi, I don't think just because the angel made the announcement, the angel didn't say when. So this could be a long couple years out. So you don't want to give out all your secrets in the beginning, especially to men. They get stuff mixed up. They have selective hearing. They have, they only hear what they want to hear. What'd you say? So I think she wanted to keep back some of the information because, of course, there was no timeline given. He didn't say you're going to be pregnant next Friday. He just said
correct.
You'll conceive at some later time.
Correct. Yes, so you see something interesting that happens. You see, the text is written so carefully. Okay, so as usual, if my wife comes to tell me that I met a man, told me I was going to get pregnant, I was going to have a baby, is going to be a boy. We shouldn't drink wine or eat unclean food. Okay, awesome. But questions that men ask is, so how are we supposed to raise this kid? Is it coming with money? Like, we've got questions. So,
For real. For real.
so
Speaking that,
naturally, we are told, and Manoah entreated Yah and said, please, oh yeah, the man of Elohim whom you sent, let him come now again to us and teach us what we shall do to the lad that will be born. He's got questions. If this guy can say that we're going to have a kid, he can really tell us a lot of things, especially, teach us what we shall do to the lad that will be born. And Elohim hearkened to the voice of Manoah. Manoah prayed. Elohim hearkened, hears his petition. And the angel of Elohim came again to the woman. Hold on.
Why is it her?
I know. He petitions, but the angel appears to his wife.
What is that all about?
What does that tell us about Mr. Manoah?
Maybe he can't. If he saw the angel, would he freak out or something?
No, he did. He did see the angel. He did see that. He did talk to the man of Elohim. We'll see that later.
Why did he go to a woman?
So he petitions, but the man returns to the woman, telling us what? Well, Mr. Manoah doesn't have it like the wife does. What is she doing? She's sitting in the field. What is she doing there?
Is she meditating?
Meditating. She's more spiritual. She's more connected. She's more matured than Mr. Manoah. So the woman, he comes back to the woman. Let's move on. And Manoah, and she was sitting in the field. And Manoah, her husband, was not with her. And the woman hurried and ran and told to her husband. And she said to him, behold, there has appeared to me the man that came to me on that day. And Manoah arose and went after his wife. And he came to the man and said to him, are you the man that spoke to the woman? And he said, I am. How would you reword verses 11?
Hey, are you the guy that spoke to my wife?
To my wife? What do you mean the woman? What's wrong with you? The text calls her your wife. Manoah's, you are called her husband. Are you the man that spoke to the woman? Which one? I don't get. Which woman are you talking about? Is that not your wife? I don't know what's wrong with him. He just doesn't have it. Clearly. Like he's pointing to her or something. I don't know. Sometimes I try not to get offended by these things, but it's not right. She's not the woman, she's your wife. Let's move on. We're building a portrait of this guy. And Manoah said, now your words will come forth. You are a prophet. I believe that. Your words will come forth. What shall be the rule for the lad and his doing? He wants to know. Look at his question carefully. And the angel of Yah said to Manoah, all of that I said to the woman, she shall beware. Manoah has some questions. Look at verses 8. He prays so that the man will come and teach them how they should raise this boy. And when he met the prophet, he asks the same question. But was his prayer answered? Listen to the angel's words. And the angel of Yah said to Manoah, of all that I said to the woman, she shall she beware. For all that comes out of the grapevine she shall not eat, and wine or strong drink she may not drink, and any unclean thing she may not eat. All that I commanded her she observe. What did the angel do here? This is another speech being reported. So what do you look out for? What did the angel do? He said, from all that comes of the grapevine she shall not eat, and wine or strong drink she may not drink.
Rabbi, he repeated the same thing that the woman repeated to the husband and omitted the same things that the woman omitted from the husband.
The same two things that she omitted, he also omitted it. The angel left out the two critical things also.
But he made it out to be just, it's about her as well. There's a lot of she.
Correct.
Like, and it almost made her feel like she's like a single parent.
Okay, it's like this. Okay, I like that approach. He doesn't mention a razor shall not come upon his head. He will begin to save Israel from the hand of the Philistines. Well, maybe the angel knows what the mother knows. The woman knows. Mrs. Manoah. No, that maybe this guy doesn't have it. He's going to go sit at the pub, drink some wine, and tell all the business. So you know what? Just keep it away from him. That is not my concern here, though. Did the angel answer Mr. Manoah's question?
Nope.
He's asking you what are the rules? What should we do? You know, this kid, what school does he go to? What does he study in school? You know, what sports is he supposed to play? Is he allowed to box? Or he's going to kill somebody, so maybe he should do underwater basket weaving. Something. He doesn't get an answer. When our family is laughing, he doesn't get an answer to the question that he wanted the man to appear so that he can ask him. He doesn't get. All he gets is what I've told your wife do. No unclean foods. no wine. And we, the reader, were looking like, wow, um, why is everybody hiding information from this dude?
I think the guy's asking all the wrong questions, first of all. And second of all, the angel was like, don't worry yourself with that. She and I have already worked this out. We don't need to inform you. We'll give you information on a need to know basis. It looks like Manoah can't handle the truth. It looks like Manoah's one of them guys that you just need to give him one thing at a time, and that's all he can handle. So I think the angel overburdened his questions because the questions are not pertaining to the answer. He's just trying to calm him, keep him quiet, and keep him restful. And then he'll divulge more information later on the need to know.
Okay. So we see, it seemed he did not get an answer. How to raise the kid. We'll come back here. Now, why do we assume that this woman who's going to carry a baby, why do we assume she has to avoid wine? Because she's pregnant. You can't be drinking when you're pregnant. Does Mr. Manoah, does he also have to avoid wine?
Rabbi,
Mr.
I say he don't have to avoid wine, but what happened is the wife does, and it could be fetal alcohol syndrome. It could be the mold content in grapes. You know, that makes you unholy.
No, it is not. Jesus turned water to wine. It's perfect. No, grapes doesn't make you unholy. So yes, he has to restrain from the commands that they're given, the restrictions given to the woman applies to the man as well. You see how that would come together. Okay. When does Mrs. Manoah, when does her restriction stops? What do we assume? When can she?
It's after birth.
After birth, yes.
Rabbi,
Madam Jew.
it's going to be after breastfeeding.
After breastfeeding, okay.
Yeah.
After birth, after breastfeeding. What if I tell you that is not the case? What was Samson bound by? Is the question that we don't ask. Let's see this. He's supposed to avoid grapes. He's supposed to avoid wine, fresh grapes, seeds. He's supposed to avoid it. We get a narrative. And Samson went down to Timnah, and he saw a woman in Timnah of the daughters of the Philistines. And he came up and told his father and mother and said, I have seen a woman in Timnah of the daughters of the Philistines. So now take her to me for a wife. And his father and mother said to him, is there no woman among the daughters of your brothers and among all my people, they're from Dan, that you go to take a wife from the uncircumcised Philistines? They protest, father and mother. But Samson said to his father, take her for me because she is pleasing in my eyes. What is wrong with this picture where we've gotten to?
Rabbi, it's they're going against the parents' wishes. It's like they just totally went against their instructions, the parents' instructions.
That's all. That's right. Are they allowed to have wives? Are they allowed to have
Yes.
sexual?
Yes.
They are, yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
No, if you take the vow that you're not going to, you have to abstain.
Okay.
Okay. Look at it carefully. Read it carefully. What's the time? Okay, we got time. There's something that stands out. You will miss it if you don't take your time. I'll read it from verses 2.
How did he see a woman in Temanite?
He goes there.
He actually goes there.
Yeah, he goes there. And he came up. Who does he tell about this woman?
His father and mother. It's
Father
looking
and-
like the father's doing more talking than the mother now.
Okay, so look at how it progresses. He comes and tells both parents that I have seen this woman in Timnah come and ask for her hand in marriage for me. Now both of them respond in verses 3. And his father and mother said to him, is there no woman among the daughters of your brothers and among all my people that you go to take a wife from the uncircumcised Philistines? But Samson said to his father, take her for me because she is pleasing in my eyes. What has just happened?
He dishonored his mother.
Okay, we expand it some more.
I think
Okay,
that.
so.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jason.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. So what happened was here, if you look at how it's structured, Samson came and he told his parents that he had saw this woman that he likes and he wants to take her for a wife. And his father and mother said to him, is there no woman or daughter of your brothers among all my people that you can go take a wife from the uncircumcised Philistines?
Correct.
But Samson said to his father, meaning that so at first he's talking to his mother and father, and then he turns and talks to his father. I would think of that as a sign of disrespect. The reason why I say that is, if me and my wife are talking to one of my kids about something, and then my kid look and just talk to me, it almost is like they are displacing my wife as if my wife is not my equal. That's how I'm looking at it. He discounted the mother. Even though the father, I am the head of the household, he totally discounted the mother when he now having this conversation. And then it goes back to saying now his father and mother did not know that it was from the Lord. So it goes back into that same stance again with his father and mother.
Okay, thank you. Madam Jew?
I also think that he can get over on the father. When children will play both ends against the middle. I have 6 sons to prove that fact. So it is that if they think that they can get away with something, they'll play one parent against the other parent to get what they want. So the father seems like to me, in this instance, he's the weaker one. So he plays toward the parent that he thinks that he can get what he wants from.
Which tells us that the mother is saying what? What is the mother's son? No.
He said no.
You see the picture?
Daddy is probably saying, yeah, she is fine. Yeah, he's off. He on with his son. He's saying some other things, but mama is definitely saying no.
She's saying no. She doesn't agree because they gave her a voice when he came to make the proposal. They gave her a voice when they respond to her. Now they take her out of the picture because she's not leaving her ground. She has information that, I won't even say that she has information. It's a no-no. But he turns to father. Because if father says, let's go, mommy is going to go. Even if she disagrees. Sometimes, not all the time. here, Father says, let's go. Go ahead. Somebody
Rabbi,
wants to make a statement.
could he have also, just as another point of view, turned to his father because his father is the head of the house, so he's the final decision maker?
Not really. In this context, remember, the angel came to the woman, giving her quite some authority there.
Okay.
So if we didn't have that, yes, I would say 100%. But in context, we see that the woman she's solid in the household. She's solid.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
Brother Basil, I've also, I don't know if people, I don't know, I noticed the way that Samson spoke to his dad.
Correct. It's like, a sports guy. Hey, go again.
Yeah.
Like he gets whatever you want.
Yeah. Like he just didn't, he's like, God, like, I don't know,
Yeah,
man.
because she's pleasing to my eyes. He was supposed to say, that is not how you take a wife. Besides, he's supposed to speak. Remember, Manoah, that's his name. He's either quiet or he's speaking too much. Put that in your spirit. Where he's supposed to be quiet, they hide things from him because he's going to speak too much. And when he's supposed to speak, see that he's quiet. Now his father and mother did not know that it was from Yah that he sought a pretense against the Philistines. Now at that time, the Philistines were ruling over Israel. And Samson and his father and mother went down to Timnah, and they came to the vineyards of Timnah. Vineyards means grapes, correct? And behold, a young lion roared towards him. What were they supposed to do when they came to Timnah and they saw the vineyard on their way?
Turn back?
Turn back or use another route?
Yeah.
Avoid it. They did not. They walked through it. Put that in your spirit. This guy is not supposed to go near wine or drinks. He's not supposed to go near grapes. But they walk through that place. Okay. Now he goes and he gets married and he has a party. Now his father went down concerning the woman, and Samson made there a feast because the young men were accustomed to do so. What do you think they were having at the feast?
Alcohol, strong drink.
Now, we just read that a Nazir is not supposed to be doing this. But this guy is.
They kind of give you an excuse as to why he does it. Because the young men were accustomed to do so.
Correct. Whatever the case, he's restricted. He's not supposed to. So the whole thing is like, okay, this guy, he's supposed to be this powerful. He's supposed to do all these things. And he has these 4 restrictions or 3. But he's doing all of them. And he still has his powers. He's still able to kill all of them. He's still able to defend or, go after all these people. Like,
Brother Basil, you know what, Brother Basil?
what is going on here?
Samson makes a lot more sense to me. I just knew it, Brother Basil. I don't think when he thought his hair was going to cut, he was going to lose his powers. Because the way that he was brought up.
We'll see. Hold that thought. We'll see. So with all of this thing, with all of this that we've seen, Mr. D, go ahead.
Thank you. Is this the reason why the mom's name is not mentioned? Because she didn't relay the proper message, and that's why her name is.
Not necessarily. No, not necessarily. We'll see. everything's going to come together right now. We see this guy given some restrictions, and we are seeing that he's not abiding by the restrictions. And even when he doesn't abide by the restrictions, his power is not taken from him. He's still, going after the Philistines. Nothing is happening to him. Yah is not striking him down. Nothing. H. Burden says that this whole story is whack. Nothing follows prescribed protocols. True. That is what it looks on the surface. Now I'm going to ask you a question and think about it carefully. What is the only thing Samson is not allowed to do?
Only thing. There's two things. Oh, he's not allowed to eat grapes or touch like wine or anything like that. But
we see him touch it clearly, but nothing happens to him.
So cut his
hair.
Now listen carefully. So we know the story so much we miss it. The only restriction that Samson had, that the angel told the mother, was that a razor shall not come upon his head.
Whoa.
The only restriction the guy had was a razor shouldn't come upon his head. When Delilah was asking him, how are you so strong? What was his response? A razor has not come upon my head, for I am a Nazirite. He didn't mention wine. He didn't mention unclean food. He didn't mention grapes. His Nazir was only based on his hair. He says, a razor has not come upon my head, for I am a Nazirite to Elohim from my mother's womb. If I will be shaven. He didn't say, if I take alcohol, if I eat grapes, if I eat unclean food. Nothing happens to me if I do all these things. But the moment I shave my hair, because that's my only restriction, then my strength will leave me and I shall become weak and be like any man. Why does he not say, give me a sip of wine and I have violated one of my prohibitions and then I'll lose my strength? Because he's not bound by that. He's only bound by his hair. Now you should ask me.
Rabbi, a very wise lady once told me that hair represents judgment.
It does.
Can you expand that if you know?
You Madame Marie is taking me to places. Okay, let's see if I remember, Madame Marie, after the class.
Okay, I'm gonna hold you to it.
Okay. Now I've just told you, I've just blown everything you thought about Samson out of the water, and I'm saying that it's only his hair. If that's the case, you should ask me, if he's only bound by the haircut, then why all the other restrictions mentioned at his annunciation? Do not drink wine or strong drink. Do not eat any unclean thing. Who
Were
is
those restrictions just for the mother?
Just for the mother.
Right.
And she's supposed to keep it
for the rest of her life, brother.
for the rest of her life, including the husband. Why? Don't forget
Rabbi,
this. Go ahead, Madam Marie.
Is that the reason why it took them so long to get pregnant? Because you know, I know that the angel did not give them a time frame, but I'm wondering why it took them so long. Did it have to do with their belief, or just coming to terms with the restrictions that they had to endure for the rest of their lives, and it took them a lot longer because it was really difficult to give it up?
No, I think
just
the
from
reason.
their humanity, like from their.
Okay. No, I think the reason was because it was just being prepared for the special kid, just like Sarah. So
Right.
yeah, it's just she was just being prepared for this kid. This kid had to come this way, so she was just barren, waiting for this moment.
Also, what does that have to do with merit? I know that another very wise lady told me that things come into our lives when we've earned it, when we've earned the merit for it. And so I'm wondering if that has anything to do with this as well. Kind of like with Sarah as well, because she didn't leave right away. And so maybe she had to build up that merit in order to receive the child. And I think also it's based on our belief, and our belief has a lot to do with how we manifest things in our lives. And so I'm just wondering about that as well.
Yeah, merit-wise, the only thing I can pull from the text is that she was always in the field meditating. You know, maybe her relationship with Yah was great, or maybe she was praying for, maybe she's seen how Israel was doing, and maybe she was interceding. I cannot pull it from the text. No, cannot pull it from the text, but maybe that was what the merit was, or something. Maybe.
Rabbi?
Maybe. Yes, madam.
I see some things in the text that speak to the environment. Your womb being an environment. The way you raise your children at your home is an environment. And I think that God was thinking that he needed a certain type of scaffolding around him, a sound environment to be raised within to become the man that he needed to be. So the vow was given to the parent at the womb time, and then they had to carry that all the way through his entire life to keep him where y'all wanted him to be.
Awesome. Thank you. We see restrictions put on the parents. Do not, beware now, and do not drink wine or strong drink, and do not eat any unclean thing, because you shall conceive and bear a son. Now we're going to be told about the son. His only restriction, a razor shall not come upon his head. So restrictions are put on the parents. Parents, don't forget this. The promise given to Samson's parents is that they're going to have a kid, and he's going to be a physical Superman, if I can say that. He's going to single-handedly take out the Philistines. He's given amazing strength that has to be used the right way. The stronger you are, the more protected that strength has to be. You're going to raise a kid who is so powerful. The more powerful you are, the more restrained you have to be. Do we agree? You're going to raise a kid who is so powerful. How do you raise him with restraint? What do you do as a parent?
Example. You have to be the example.
You give him models of restraint. The only way he's going to succeed, the only way he's going to do what he's going to do is what he sees at his, let me change that, what he sees in the tent. You restrict yourself from alcohol. Don't eat anything unclean. Unclean doesn't mean that it's unclean because it's got blood in it. If you eat goat meat too much, you kill yourself. That's unclean. Don't do anything that would compromise the restraint he needs to have. Avoid wine. Show some restraint. He's going to pick that up. He's going to learn. So the angel answered Mr. Manoah's question by telling him what he told him. How do we raise this child? How do we teach him? He says, show some restraint to yourself. By example. What he sees is going to affect him. What he hears is going to affect him. What he watches is going to affect him. Avoid wine. Not because you're pregnant. Avoid wine because you need to show restraint. He's going to be powerful, but he needs restraint. So you better show and live lives of restraint so he can see it from his youth growing up. Does this work? Does this work?
What does? The action them restraining themselves, Brother Basil? Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Like when we look at the narrative, does it work?
It doesn't work because even the way they were going through the vineyard told you that they was very blasé about those type of things, and so you could imagine what it was like in the home.
Correct.
You know, feast and everything else that went on with it. You know, because regardless of whether it was custom for them to do that, it was something that would have been is quite important, and it shows you what kind of environment and a family he came from. I also get the sense that there's a divided. They were divided as a home.
Yes. So now we see it. Correct. So there's something in the tent of Mr. Manoah that wasn't right. He may have seen something. He was lusting over women. Did Mr. Manoah want more kids, so he was all over the place? I mean, what was it? The text is silent. But what we see about Samson is that his cycle starts by lusting over this girl in Timnah. He goes to Timnah and he meets this beautiful woman. He comes and he says, take me. Mother says no. Convinces father. Off they go. They get married. There's this riddle. He kills 30 men. So they give this woman that he just married to another man. He comes pissed off, attacks their fields. They turn around. They attack and kill his wife and his father-in-law. He takes vengeance on them. It goes back and forth. That's the first cycle. The second cycle, he goes to Gaza and he saw this harlot. And he was with the harlot. Confusion. Third cycle, Delilah. The text says he would begin to save Israel from the hand of the Philistines. But he never takes the fight to the Philistines. As Philistines. He's not saving Israel because that was his mission. Yes, he was fighting with the Philistines, but it was out of vengeance about personal things. That all starts with his love for this woman in Timnah. His lust after foreign women. Not the hero you were looking for. It means the restraint did not happen. Who was told not to drink wine?
The woman was told, but I think it was both the man and the woman. The thing is, I think it goes back to what I think how I saw her. I saw her more like a single parent. I don't know why. That's the vibe I get from the whole story.
No, if you read the text, it clearly says the woman, correct? It says Mrs. Manoah shouldn't drink wine.
Yes, it does. You're right.
Doesn't mean the husband has to drink wine.
Has to or is allowed to?
Both. Has to, allowed to. Does he have to take, is he in the clear if he takes wine?
Well, no, because I think she got like attacking and things.
No, I think he has to abstain from drinking and be the example he needs to be at home.
That's it.
Because some don't do what their fathers do. And probably Samson was about 10 years old. He could have beat his daddy down. So, yes, I think the father has to be held accountable, just like mom in this drinking and unclean conundrum. They have to both be accountable so that they model the kind of restraint that you need.
Yes. So because only the woman was told, the reason she was told not to drink wine wasn't because she was allergic to it or because wine is wrong to drink. No. The reason is because I want you to exercise some restraint. Spiritually, you're the strongest because clearly the angel came to you twice. But sometimes it's hard to get the man to follow suit. Well, it was you the angel came to. It was you that said, don't drink wine, I'm going to drink it. But that was not the reason why. The reason is because we don't want our son to see us drink wine. We have to restrain ourselves. So the restraints did not happen. It took David to come and destroy Samson's mess. Let me rephrase that so that it will provoke you. It took David to come and destroy Samson. Does that make sense?
What? How?
Who can solve that riddle? It took David to destroy Samson. It doesn't make sense, huh?
Was it, bro? Because David kept on fighting the Philistines, didn't he? And kept on dealing with them.
David had restraint, especially when it came to Saul.
So, okay, but that doesn't solve my riddle. It took David to destroy Samson.
Destroy Samson.
We had one man who would go to war and kill all the Philistines. When again do we have one man who represents a whole nation?
Are you referring to Goliath?
Goliath. Now it turns around to bite us. You see the picture? We had one man who was destroying the whole Philistines. Messed up. Total failure. Now Yah turns around and puts it in our face. Here you go. Mess ups. Don't do what I tell you to do. Now we're looking at Goliath. Standing there, challenging us. The spirit of Samson. And it took somebody who had restraint. David. To go after him. That's why I said it took David to destroy Samson. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, in Proverbs, most people think that Proverbs is about wisdom only. But in the New Living, it says the purpose of these Proverbs is wisdom and discipline.
Yes.
So I'm implying that the stronger you are, or the greater you are, the more discipline you must have.
True.
Now, that's what you're implying, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Yes.
The interesting thing about the story is that most people think it's a wonderful story, but when you read the text, it's really not. And when you put everything in perspective,
At all.
and like you said, David comes along and he's the one that destroys the Philippines when this was supposed to be Samson years ago, and he doesn't fully succeed it. I guess because at the end when he's in that arena, and arena comes crashing down. But that's only the people in the arena. That's not
correct.
The entire Philippine
Not
nation.
at all. Yeah. And he died in a pagan temple of Dagon. Come on. Really? And it all starts with a name that we are given. The man is called Manoah. When we refuse to speak up, when we have to, and when we speak up, when we have to be quiet. What happens when we are not supposed to remain silent? What happens when we're supposed to rebuke Samson and say, no, you're not going to marry that woman in Timnah? No, I am not going, because if I don't go, it's not a marriage. What happens when Israel is silent? You have a Goliath taunting you for 40 days. 1 Samuel 17. And the Philistines were standing on the mountain from here, and Israel was standing on the mountain from here, and the valley was between them. And the champion emerged from the Philistines' camp, named Goliath from Gath. His height was 6 cubits and a span. And he stood and called to the array of Israel, and he said to them, why should you come out to wage war? Am I not the Philistine, and you the servants of Saul? Choose for yourself a man and let him come down to me, if he is able to fight with me and kill me. We shall be slaves to you, and if I overcome him and kill him, you shall be slaves to us and serve. Yeah, if you have historical records, you know about Samson. One person was defeating us all. Now Samson is here. Come out. And the Philistines said, I taunt the ranks of Israel this day. give me a man. Well, Goliath, for your record, he's dead. He is dead. He died in your temple in Dagon. He's gone. He didn't do what he's supposed to do. If he did what he was supposed to do, you wouldn't be standing here taunting us. Verses 11. And Saul and all Israel heard these words of the Philistine, and they were panic-stricken, and very much afraid. Everyone was quiet. Fear. We are told a boy named David comes to the camp. Goliath shows up again, 23. And while he was speaking with them, behold, the champion named Goliath the Philistine from Gath was coming up from the ranks of the Philistines, and he spoke the same words as before, and David heard it. Thank you. The chat. H. Bowden said everyone was Manoah. Yes. I call it the Manoah effect. Silence. Fear gripped them. David heard. And all the men of Israel, upon seeing the man, fled from before him and were exceedingly frightened. And the men of Israel said, have you seen this man who is coming? For he's coming to taunt Israel. And if it be that the man who will kill him, the king will enrich him with great riches, and he will give him his daughter, and he will make his father's house free in Israel. Now, a king is going to speak. And David said to the men who were standing before him, saying, what shall be done to the man who slays this Philistine, and take away reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should taunt the ranks of the living God? What does the text tell us? Somebody reported the words to Saul. Somebody has spoken in the camp. 40 days of silence. David came and broke the Manoah effect. Silence when you have to speak. Who is this uncircumcised Philistine? And the words which David had spoken were heard. People heard it. Ooh, we have a leader here. Ooh, we have a king. They related the words to Saul, and Saul went for him. Are you sure? Yes. What happens when people in the community see wrong and they don't correct? What happens when people in the community see that the kids are going wayward and they don't correct? What happens in the tent of Jacob when we have a Manoah effect? You have a mob taking advantage of a vulnerable woman all night, and not one soul, not one. Gibeah should have been burnt down. Not one courageous elder, parent, got out to protest. Not one. This is what you get. Silence and mute. Where was everyone? Where was the parents? The elders? the head of communities. No one heard her scream. No one heard the commotion outside. You cannot tell me that. No one protested, not even one. It all starts from our tents. How do we raise up these kids? Do we raise them up to respect women? Manoah said, were you the one who spoke to the woman? The impudence. She's your wife. Address her as such. Give her some respect. But this is taught from home, to respect women. If this mob respected women, they wouldn't have done what they did to her. How do you correct it? How does this never happen again? It starts from the tents of Jacob. In Numbers 24, Balaam, whom Moshe quotes, tells us, Balaam saw that it pleased Yah to bless Israel. So he did not go in search of omens, as he had done time and time again, but turned his face towards the desert. He's going to see something beautiful. Balaam raised his eyes and saw Israel, dwelling according to its tribes. That was what was happening in the book of Judges. They were dwelling according to tribes. And the spirit of Elohim rested upon him. Now, this is a pagan prophet. And the spirit of Yah is upon him. I mean, the sight here is just amazing. He took up his parable and said, he's going to give his resume. He's going to boast here, rightfully so. The word of Balaam, the son of Beor, and the word of the man with an open eye, meaning that he can really see. The word of the one who hears Elohim's sayings. He hears Yah, our deity. He hears him. He speaks to him. Who sees the vision of the Almighty, fallen, yet with open eyes. How goodly are your tents, O Jacob, your dwelling places, O Israel. This is what Balaam saw. It all starts from the tents. It all starts from home. If we are going to make it or not, it starts from Jacob's tent. Then it goes into our dwelling places. It starts from just that one building, that one room. So when he lifted up his eyes, he saw the beauty of Jacob's tent. He saw the beauty of our dwellings. Because we've done something that the book of Proverbs tells us to do. Proverbs 22. King James Version, NIV, RSV says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. That is inaccurate. Do you see a problem with the reading? Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Do you see a problem with
Rabbi,
how it's written? Madam Jew.
there's a whole lot of leeway between being a child and old. So you can train as a child, as a parent will, but there's a whole lot of error and opportunity between when the person is a child and when he is old. So they may go and do whatever they're going to do in that time, in that span of time, but then they say, then it says here that he will not depart from it, but it says when he is old.
Correct. So the reward, how you know that you've trained your child is when they are old and they're doing what you've trained them.
Pardon me? Restate.
Correct. What is wrong with this translation?
If I'm not mistaken, that translation should say that bend a child as in a branch in the way you want it to go. And then when it is old, it will remain and will not depart from it. But you have to bend it to the way that you want it.
Mr. D, I would say the exact opposite. I actually think that's the exact opposite of what this is saying. Because a child has got his own mission, and I think it's not about the way that
Pause. Don't even go a step further. You say he's done what? He's got what? Madam Cynthia, you said a child has got what?
Has got his own mission.
Pause there. If a child has got his own mission, why are you training the child the way he should go?
Is it not speaking of guidelines, Rabbi, as in the Ten Commandments? What we call commandments. The guidelines, the I don't like to use the word restrictions that Yah gave to Israel, but the guidelines that he gave us that we're to be an example to the other nations. So children have their own missions, but until they're of age, we still have to guide them, right?
Yes, we are the text is not saying we shouldn't guide them, but how are we guiding them? Train up a child the way he should go. Madam Cynthia hit it on the head. Meaning that, okay, I'm going to train up the child. When you get up in the morning, you say your prayer. You have to study Torah on the weekends. You have to keep the Shabbat. You have to go to college. You have to go to high school. Make sure you finish. You go to college. You get a good paying job. Wait a second. That's not what you're asked to do. Madam Cynthia said the child is here on a mission. So how do we render it in the Tanakh? See the difference. Train a child according to his way.
Right. I'm not talking about going to school and stuff like that. I'm talking about how to be a good person in the world, how to treat others, like the foundational principles that we should have in order to form our way of life, how we move in the world. We have to give our children some boundaries in how to conduct themselves in the world. It's those kinds of things that I'm referring to, not necessarily about learning to read and write, go to school. Because some of those things impact their calling, and parents don't often know what their children's calling are until much later. So if we give them the foundation of say the fruits of the spirit, you know, and those kinds of qualities that you will need in order to live the last six commandments portions of the like how we love God and how we love our fellow men. Those qualities that we find amiable in others, courtesy, you know, those kinds of things are what I was referring to.
Okay, yes. Those we teach them. Those, yes. Yes, go ahead.
Now I was going to say I agree with Maura, Marie, because I know how I grew up that my parents trained me well. And because of the training I received, I know, you know, that no matter what somebody do to me, I'm gonna, depends on what it is, I'm going to hold back and not respond the way how I should really and truly respond. Because, you know, it's that foundation that you receive. So, you know, even just as if you're on the bus or the train and an elderly come on, you're going to stand up and give them your seat and will not swear at elders. And, you know, just certain things you just wouldn't do. For even me, I say, yes, I went to church and I did stop going to church, but you know that foundation that there is a God, and you revert back to that foundation to be humble and do what you have to do, which is right.
Sister Edna.
But so compare the two translations and look at the difference.
I'm so sorry. I was going to just say that I don't know if I agree with this idea of humble and all this sort of stuff, because it's about the assignment.
Right.
Look, if you look at the context of Samson, what was his assignment? His assignment was to go and deal with the Philistine. So you have to train him according to his assignment. And maybe humility is not what this is about.
It's not part of Samson's.
That is
in this case, you know.
Correct. So
there is an assignment.
Correct. No, so let's put it in context. It says to train up a child the way he should go. When he is old, he will not depart from it. The Tanakh says train a child according to his way. They're not the same thing. If you look at the KJV and then the Tanakh, it's not the same thing. So what's the difference between the two?
I think the difference is that you're looking at the child itself and looking at the gifts that the child has and looking at the direction you see, where you see this child could be moving towards. And then you kind of focus on those gifts and those weaknesses, and that'll help them according to his way.
Correct. Can you train
and what
Esau?
I'm saying is that the foundational trainings that we give our children of love being the overarching foundation will meld into what the child came to do in the world. I think I'm not explaining myself very, very well, and I don't know how to articulate what I'm trying to really say, but all I'm saying is that as parents, we observe our children and we give them the foundational groundings that they need in order to come into their calling. And their calling, the foundational training have a positive impact on their calling. And it's within that scope that their calling will flourish. I don't know how to express myself very well in what I'm really trying to say, but I'm just saying it's intertwined, and it affects what the child came to do. And if we give them a really solid, good foundation on Torah, then their calling will be even much more magnified in that respect.
Madame Marie,
I think you have a great point there, sister. And if I was to rewrite verse number 6, I would say, because I would believe that this is written toward parents. So I would tell the parent to exemplify the kind of behavior at home that your child needs so that he can grow up and be wonderful at his purpose and his mission in life. But it starts at home. It starts from the womb. It starts from the day he's born, that the parent has come up with the correct environment for the child to flourish and to thrive in. But it starts with the parent. It isn't about just the child. It's so much more. The home, the whole womb, everything has to be the environment for the child to thrive. I had a very smart person told me one time before that you have to be all the parent your child requires. So you don't get to choose prior to the birth of the child what kind of parent you're going to be. You have to be the kind of parent that the child requires. And in the case with Samson, they had to be a special kind of parent because they were having a special kind of child. And each one of us has an individual child that is very special to us. So the parent has to be the one doing the changing and doing the exemplifying and doing all the setting the restraints and doing all the boundaries, because it's the parent that sets up the environment. I'm done.
I'd like to say something. Is that the parent can recognize the gifts. I say gifts because you may have more than one.
Correct.
However, and you train that child and you nurture that child, even if it's in the temporal things. So, for instance, you may have a child who's really good at music.
Yes.
You may have a child that is gifted.
Yes.
You may have another one that is very good and pick up languages.
Yes.
And you train them, but there's a certain time in their lives when they go away from that.
Yes.
And so, if you recognize that the gifted one he's got, he or she has just that higher intellectual ability, and you position them in a way that it will benefit them and also benefit society, and then move away from that. Now, there's a disconnect in how you manage that, because if you're looking at spiritual, you can also train them spiritually, and then they walk away from that.
Correct.
So then, as a parent, you have done everything, including staying on your knees or standing up, but you ask for the Most High for that wisdom that He gave to Solomon, that gift He's given you, and asking Him for guidance how to manifest His will and His gift in the life of the child. But if a child is bent set and going away from that, then that is not, I don't believe that has anything to do with the parent and the parent not channel or nurturing or recognizing that you have a child that the Most High has given you and is gifted certain things. It is very difficult to basically unpack that.
Yes.
And it's not cut and dry. No, there's no refund. No, there's no blueprint. Yes, there are guidance in the Torah or the Tanakh or the Bible that helps you, but there's a will that He's given to all of us. And that will, if that child is dead set on their will, there is not a lot you can do as a parent but pray.
That's it.
So can I just say? Oh, sorry. I'll wait for
yes.
Speak.
So
I was to say.
Yeah. She's made. Sonia has made a very good point. The part of the verse you have to pay attention to is according to His way. You may have apples and tomatoes at home, your children. You don't plant the tomatoes the same way you plant the apples, even though they live under the same roof. So you have to find out, how does tomatoes blossom? How do you plant mangoes? You cannot train Esau the same way you train Jacob. It would not work. So you find out the way of the individual and you train them according to that. And like she said, you put your seeds in the ground, you water it, and then you pray for rain. Because whatever you deposit, however you raise them, a time will come, all you can do is get on your knees and hope that, having trained them according to their ways, they're going to follow suit. The KJV makes it seem like you were using your methods like a single stroke across the board. No, that's why we put children in classrooms and we give them the same tests, and some do better and some don't. It doesn't mean that those that don't do better are dumb. Maybe that is not their way. You put them in a different environment, you see that they shine. So that's what Solomon is telling us. Samson had to be raised according to his way. The way you teach love to Samson is not the same way you teach love to Isaac. Isaac is just cool, calm, collected. He does nothing. He's a lover boy. Just stay home and cuddle with his wife. A family man. Samson, maybe not. Maybe his parents are not like that. Maybe they did the best they could. But this is how he turned out. But we don't see the according to his way. We don't see that. Was it communicated to her that this is what the angel said? Did he interpret that as, so far as I'm fighting for love, maybe I'm doing Yah's work? So all I'm trying to say with this is we need to find the ways. Every kid is different. How we raise them should be according to how the person is supposed to be raised. Some you yell, some you quiet. Some you just look at them, they understand it. Some are hard-headed. But there's a way to bring them up so that when they grow, they can remember, this is what mom told me. This is what dad told me. This is what I saw. This is how I saw my parents handle this difficulties, this situation. But we teach them everything. Feed them with Torah. Doesn't mean that they're going to use it. And you can list all the leaders in the Bible. The Samuels, the Moshes, the Aarons, the Elis. Their children did not follow after them. And these are the giants of our books. So train up the child according to his way, the text tells us. Go ahead, Madam Cynthia.
One of the things that when I think about children, one of the things that I want to, when I look at that scripture, that Proverbs, and also what I was thinking about last week in the class with the Levite, is that they've got, your children do have gifts and talents and so forth, but like, we talk about that. But there's areas that their gifts has the opposite side. It's like what we talked about with this gentleman, that when he speaks, there's two sides to it, And I think one of the things that I think we as Israel should be doing is, while their gifts in one aspect is great, there's another side to it that also needs to be managed. And that is, I think, one of the crucial areas as a people that we should be really working on, And I don't want to use the word weaknesses. I don't necessarily see that as a weakness. I just think it's an area that needs to be managed, disciplined, trained with the child to help them. A challenge. It's like if you notice that your child has, for example, like this Levite guy, maybe he struggled with ego from when he was a child, struggled with feeling that he has to be on like his way, or that nothing else can ever manage, his way or the highway. While that is a good thing in terms of getting things done and pushing things through, it's not so good in other things, maybe in a relationship with a spouse or other relationships with other people. So as a parent, you have to deal with that fire, that small fire, so it doesn't become big fire, and we as a nation are worried. So it's like that balancing. I hope I'm making sense, people. But it's like, for me, that's how I see it. I see it as there's the gifts, the talents, but there's also other areas that needs to be managed. Sorry, Asha. So that's what I'm thinking about. Like, there's another side to it.
Rabbi? True. Yes, Madam
May I
Mercy.
say something?
Yes, please.
My daughter is in college right now, and at the beginning of the semester, she called me and she was really, really depressed. And she's like, Mom, I just can't see myself doing anything else. She said, the classes they're driving me crazy. It's just too much on me. And I said, but you've already answered your own question. You already answered your own dilemma, because you can't see yourself doing anything else. So you have to just keep going in the tenacity that you have. Because see, I've always known my daughter was a tenacious young lady. And she said, Mom, that doesn't help. But it is the way that she should go, because she can't see herself doing anything else. And when you know that about your child, it really makes it a little bit easier to help mold them in the direction. The foundational things, of course, she follows the rules of the home. She does what she's supposed to do, all that other stuff. And so it's like you answered, they will come to understand when they say, I can't see myself doing anything else. On the opposite side, my son is like a music major, and someone talked him out of doing his music. And he's been so miserable ever since. And, I keep saying, you've got to do what you love. You've got to do your talent, your thing, because if you can't see yourself in your soul doing anything else. So you got to figure it out. You got to figure out how to bring that gift to its fruition. You've got to, because you will not be happy and you will not be able to contribute what you're supposed to do as far as your assignment on this earth if you're not moving in your gift. And I just wanted to throw that out there for, the parents with the older kids that are, finding their way. Because it is important that it's their way, that it's, their thing. And that's it. I just wanted to throw that out there. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Another thing that I have observed is our behavior at home and the environments that we're raising the children. So while we may be the teacher at home and teaching all the good stuff, aspiring to be this and that, and you're doing the spiritual thing. If you're not living, let me rephrase, the life that you are living, and if it's not consistent to what you're teaching, they're actually modeling you when they go. So it's important that while we are doing that, so we may not have lived the way that we were supposed to live or how we're taught, but now we are teaching our children, and somehow we're not really modeling those types of behaviors. And then they'll start asking questions about your past and your background. And if it wasn't what you were teaching, you were often here, but you did that. So I just wanted to put that out there, because sometimes we tend to use the books and so on and all that sort of thing, and we forget that they're also mirroring us.
Thank you very much. other contributions?
I just think, oh, sorry.
Yes.
Yes, Mr. D, let Madam Marie go, and then
Can
you
I
can
ask,
come in.
can I go back? Yes.
I just wanted to say I totally agree with Sonia. And it's really important for us as parents to deal with our garbage, because if we don't deal with our quote unquote demons or the things that we haven't dealt with from childhood, that really rubs off a lot on our children. And so while we're trying to teach them Torah ways and helping them with their calling, they're also seeing how you are and whether or not you really believe what it is that you're saying, because children are quite discerning and they can really cut through the crap and see the hypocrisy and see the dysfunction. So as parents, and many of us have been damaged in some way or another, really very important for us to deal with our childhood issues so that there isn't a spillover into the next generation. That's something I'm dealing with myself. Just coming to terms with a lot of stuff that's happened to me in childhood that I really suppressed, and it's now I'm becoming conscious of, and it's very difficult to deal with. And but we have to find a way out of it so that we can be our best selves for our kids, and so we're not, transferring some of those things, those values, or those ways of being to our children. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. D.
Okay, I want to go back to, yes, thank you. I'd like to go back to the wife, the concubine, the girl. Could she have been a young girl who was betrothed? And could she have been a virgin?
Manoah's wife or the concubine?
The concubine. I'm talking about the priest from last week. I'm not talking about this week.
Okay.
Last week.
What was the question again? Sorry.
Could she have been a young girl or someone about 18 going betrothed to be married as the second wife? But it didn't work out and she came back. Could she have been a young girl? Could she have been a virgin? Or could she have been just betrothed? Or was she already?
Yeah, if she was betrothed, she'll still be in the father's house. Because that is promised to marry. I'm going to go get my things together and then come and do what I'm supposed to do and then bring her home to live with me. So
okay. Then could she have been a servant, a young servant going with the intention of being married?
yes, so concubinage, yes. Well, with concubinage, yes, you can go up the ranks and become a wife. We saw that with Zilpah and Bilhah when they started off as concubines, and then Jacob elevated them to wives. So yes, that is possible. But usually, culturally, it is the children that are elevated to sons, not second class, but to rub shoulders with the children of the wives. No. So usually, it is the children of the concubine that get to come up the ranks. Hardly do we see a concubine come up the ranks to be a wife, because usually she's there to just have children for the man. So yes, maybe that is how it started off. I don't know what the deal was with the father, whether she would go up the ranks. I don't know too whether, no, it couldn't be. Well, it could be. It could be that the rules for female slaves. She's brought into the house so that she would get married within the house if the man doesn't want the female slave. But that could not be the case because she's too older. She's older than, she doesn't fit the age bracket for that to happen. So scratch that.
Basil, I
Yes.
wanted just to say that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry, Mr. D. Brother Basil, I just wanted to say that one of the things that I wanted to say, like that really on my heart about this situation, is that as a people, like sometimes I think what we have to look at it is that traits in our children that may be viewed as negative. For example, oh, you think the child is stubborn, or there's certain aspect that you think is negative. There is. I want to just emphasize that there's a light and a dark side to both of them. And if they've got a mission that that they need to fulfill, those traits are useful for that particular mission. As a parent, I believe that you're supposed to help them manage the light and the dark side of those things, not to break their spirit and stop them having those things. Because sometimes to do the mission, you need to be stubborn. Do you know what I'm saying? But it's in context. And I think as a people, we can break our children. So I'm going to get emotional. And they can lose that thing, or these things, to acquire their mission. I'm just using stubbornness as an example. And I want us to really think about that and really be mindful of those things. Because that thing, those things that God has put in them, we view them as negative. We may view them as, oh, I want my child to be humble. But he's not. He's very, he may come across quite loud or be perceived as obnoxious and responds back to me. I don't want a child to respond back to me. When I say jump, they're supposed to just jump and do whatever. But that trait in them, that curiosity, that questioning, is something that Yah has put in them, so that they can do the mission that they are required to bring into this realm. It's not your role to break that off them. It is your role to help them manage that, and for you to understand it and take your ego out of it. Your ego. Sorry, I have to just say it.
No problem. They'll give you a story on that. It's a wise story. A mother had a child who was on the sick bed, and it looked like the child wasn't going to make it. So the woman comes to this rabbi and asked for prayers for the son, and he prayed. He prayed, and he felt that no, the gates of heaven, or the gates of prayer, was shut close. He could feel his prayer wasn't getting to where it was supposed to, because the gates were closed. So he went looking for what we will call thieves, people who break into places easily. He went looking for them. He found them, and he asked whether they would join him in prayer. And they got together, they prayed, and Yah listened to their prayer. and the woman's child was healed, came back to life. So the mother asked the rabbi, I thought you prayed with holy people. Why did you go looking for those guys to pray with? And what had that to do with my son getting healed? And the rabbi said, when I was praying, I closed my eyes and I was standing in front of the gate of prayer and it was closed. I couldn't get in. But I needed people who could find their way and get into closed doors. People with that energy so they could open the door so my prayers would go through. That is why I went to them. And then he turned to the woman and said, when you see them, you only see the negative. But if they would use that energy to get into places, oh, what good they can do for humanity. This is not a real story, but it is a story to teach the truth that Madam Cynthia was saying. We focus on the bad, the negative side of the traits of our children. Why not focus on the positivity of it? What can I do with this kid? His energy, his, hard-headedness. What is it? Convert it to positivity. And you don't have to beat it out of him. So you do have a point, Madam Cynthia. Was it Mr. Jason wanted to say something?
Yeah, Rabbi, I did want to say something, and it's something that happened when we were in a Torah class last night, and when I was studying, because we were reading over Exodus 5, and I realized why Yah chose Moses, and sometimes we don't see the vision of Yah because we think that because God has an end, that it's only one end. So we may see that it's one end, but Yah may see 95 different versions of that same end. So Moses was chosen because Yah knew he couldn't speak. Therefore, when he went to Pharaoh, he did not relay directly what God said to him. He ad-libbed. Therefore, it provoked Pharaoh into being stubborn. Because Pharaoh had no experience with the God of Israel. God knew exactly why he sent Moses. But we could not see that foresight if we did not step outside and look at it from a God view. That's why when Moses go to them, God said, take the elders. Moses don't take the elders. So what does that lead to? That leads to the foreman being beaten and being punished because of his incapability to do something. So sometimes to us, those incapabilities to do things is a design so that God could later use those things for something else. But I don't think we view it from a panoramic point of view. We have a shallow version of thinking because how we're brought up, everything is supposed to be perfect. But we don't understand that there are things that Yah uses in our imperfections to help. Like Abraham, when he lied to Abimelech, how would Abimelech have come in contact with Yah if Abraham didn't lie? These are the questions I ask when I'm reading the text. Because these things seem unrighteous, but when you look at it from an outside standpoint, Abraham lying to Abimelech allowed for the womb to be open. It was a part of the plan. But that's something only God could see. And it's powerful when you take that lens and take that view.
Yeah, very true.
Rabbi, can we go back to the two questions I have burning my ears off. The one about why the grape and what is the significance of hair as judgment?
Wow.
I know it's late.
Oh boy. Wow. The hair, if we really, really want to know, I can bring Madam Sister Joy to talk about it. I know she's spoken about it on it before, some time back. Oh, have you noticed that when we say somebody is homosexual, they pay attention to their hair. They style them. I'm trying not to go there, Madam Marie. Even me, I'm trying not to go to that level. The hair are tubes. Hair, it's tubes. It draws energy from above. It draws signals. I think that's all I'll say about it, Madam Marie.
Okay, Rabbi, you're gonna have to tell me all. Because
I'm also on YouTube, so it's not information that I want it to be private. It's more esoteric, and not my focus. So yes, the grapes. Yes, the grapes. I think the grapes have to do with wine. Let me do the simple meaning. Wine, customarily, we drink wine, and usually it's hard to restrain yourself from alcohol if it's something that you drink often. Wine is drunk at feasts, pressed, fermented. In the New Testament, the wine that Jesus drank was not grape juice. It was alcohol. So culturally, wine is a thing. So to have somebody not abstain from it or restrain from it, the person is actually really checking themselves to not have to violate what they've been told. It's like you telling me to not eat lamb or goat meat. It's not going to happen. Then I have to really, if I'm supposed to, then that would be a restraint. So from the simple level, if you want a esoteric level, that one I would have to come back.
Okay, I was just wondering whether or not there was a specific reason as to why grapes, as opposed to any other fruit.
Because it's just the grapes that they use for the wine. It's the grapes that they use usually. It was the grapes that they used for the wine, so that's why. So anything, so you would see, it prevents you from even grapes, so that it doesn't get to the point of you eating grapes and now you want wine. So it's cutting you from anything, the raw material of the wine. It's prohibiting you from actually even tasting it.
I think there's something more to it.
Oh yeah, there is.
I'm just not. I'm not filled with that answer.
Yes,
so
there is.
I-
There is more to it. I'm just not saying it. That's all. Mr. Shansi.
Can I say something about hair in a sense? Just sort of my interpretation. It's funny because our hair, black people, it grows up. When I've seen, like many different versions of the hair growing all the way up, I think the Rastafarians, the hair, because of the heaviness, it falls down. But I wondered, when Jacob lay down on the stone as a pillow, his hair had to be thick enough for that to cushion his head from getting sore, because he was sleeping pretty much for the whole night until the angel interrupted his sleep. And I think it's one of my children that studied science, so that the hair, our hair, particularly black people's hair, has a certain chemical component that attracts the sun from an energy perspective, so the hair grows up as opposed to growing down, even though we have coils versus a non-black person who doesn't have those coils, but they grow down. And so I was just trying to understand that. And the other thing is that our hair protects us quite well when we take a fall. So we have less concussion. So there's benefit in having black, afro, curly, thick hair that can't easily be tamed as opposed to having to straighten it. So there's a disadvantage to straightening our hair, the female that is, because we lose the protection of what the Most High intended it to be.
Yes, and for him to also have a dream on that stone. Yeah, it may have something. Maybe it was Afro. I don't know. Never paid attention to it.
Rabbi,
Yes, sir.
I had wanted to go back to the wine and the grapes, and something that I learned was in Gematria, the numerical value for wine is the same for secrets, and it seems to me that for humans, like, we can't handle the deep secrets when it's not time. So I think, so starting from like Noah, him coming out after the flood, and they say he was a master of the vineyard, and like after the flood, it seemed like he just completely changed. He got drunk, and I see that as I guess the secrets of what was to come about for humanity was something that Noah couldn't handle at the time, and that's why I think he did what he did after the flood. And then going into Manoah's wife, that she was not to drink wine, and I think that's because this was part of the preparation for what was to come. And if she were to break that rule, I'm talking like as far as like I'm trying to combine the energy, the meaning of secrets with the scenes that have happened in Torah to not. I'm just getting a pattern. I'm seeing a pattern of there are times when we are to not share secrets or take it or ask for it or just not respect it when it needs to be. if I'm making any sense. But I'm seeing a pattern. I'm trying to get like an answer. I hope that I don't know, help clear some things up. Maybe not, but I'm still trying to get that firm answer. Secrets, wine, and the patterns of us going in the wrong direction. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes, if it's something that we want to talk about, I think we can create a private session that people can join, and then we keep it private, and then we can talk about the hair, the color of the hair, your face, what it tells us. If it's something that we want to
Yes,
we want to
Rabbi,
do, we
yes,
can do
please,
it private.
please.
The shape of the face, the size.
I concur with Madame Marie.
Oh boy. I came to do the simple reading of the text. Now you're dragging me into
I'm sorry, I've been going
esoteric
through this
stuff.
thing this whole week, and I just can't go back, Rabbi. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thank you, Marie.
I would create a webinar and then I'll share the link. The only reason I'm not saying it here because you didn't sign up for it. We have a saying that when it comes to those mystical things, you just don't teach them. You just don't share what you know. You know, people would have to willingly say that I want to listen to it. You know, so, and it's not usually done in public. Everybody is not on the same level. So those who want it can sign up to the webinar, and then we can speak freely on these things, knowing that you came to listen, not that I just gave it out.
Rabbi.
Yes, sir.
We need to maybe issue a forewarning
Correct.
that these things are
yes,
that it's not literal.
Yes. So
it doesn't,
yeah.
So it doesn't become law, you know. So
correct. Yeah, that's why I'm restricting myself
I'm
from
interested.
Yeah, from saying nothing publicly like that. Coming, we're talking a private session, and then we can discuss. We can discuss these things.
Rabbi.
Yes, sir, Mr. Marvin.
Shalom.
Shalom, sir.
I was thinking about the grapes, and I was thinking that you know, when you grow grapes, you don't have to put much care in it. You know, you just have to like prune it like once a year or so. And I was comparing that to the idea that, you know, Yah wants us to depend on Him. And when we, you know, take a view of the Nazirite, and the Nazirite is separating himself from society or certain things in society, in his environment. And the reason that being is, one of the reasons at least, is so that Yah can, so he can depend upon Yah. And the grape is like one of those fruits that doesn't need much care, doesn't need to depend, you know, if we compare it to other fruits or so. That's the way I was looking at it. I don't know if that
makes some sense. Yes, it could be. I didn't know that it didn't need that much care. But yes, you can relate it to. It can be related, yes.
Awesome.
Look at my screen. I'm going to say one more thing. I'm going to trick you. David, in his statement, says that, "For who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should taunt the ranks of the living God?" He calls him the living Elohim, correct? He's the living Elohim. When we say someone is cut off from the land of the living, what do we mean? In the context of Isaiah 53. Or no, in the context of, yeah, it can be in the context of Isaiah 53, it can be in the context of Tanakh. Tanakh as a whole.
Doesn't it mean it's dead? Doesn't when you're separated from the land of the living, doesn't that mean dead?
Okay, yeah, it means that. What else can it mean? You're correct.
Is it talking about the idea of prosperity? Because the land that was promised was flowing with milk and honey. They were taken from a desert place and brought to a land flowing with milk and honey. So if you cut off from that land, you're cut off from a provisional source.
Okay, that's correct. What else could it mean? You're right. Yes, you're correct.
They don't have enlightenment.
No enlightenment? Okay. What else would it kind of mean? You're correct. You're correct. Cut up from the land of the living. Let me bring up the book of... Cut up from Yah. Okay, that's correct. What else can it mean? As you think about it, let me bring this up. What else can it mean? Where can I find you?
What about exile?
Oh. Exile from where? You're correct.
Right from all your, from everything, your family, your homeland, your country, sent out to the four corners of the earth, exile. Where you're supposed to be. Yeah, you in a strange land, you're a stranger, you getting abused like a stranger, you know what I'm saying? So, exile. Yeah, that's what I know.
Correct.
Isn't it true also that in this 3D realm, we often refer to living and dying in terms of physicality. However, we're just transitioning when we so-called die, when the body dies, and we're transitioning back to Yah. So the land of the living really is not in the physical per se, because we're really living. We don't die. We're just going back to source. So I'm thinking being cut off from the land of the living is our connection to Yah being cut off, maybe?
Okay. Okay.
It's not really severed, but it's maybe our perception of that.
Perception. Correct. Yes, if you look at death from that angle, correct. So can the land of the living be Israel?
Definitely.
So to be cut up doesn't necessarily mean that you died, correct? If you cut up from the land of the living, it means that you cut up from the land of Israel. You've gone into exile. Don't forget that. We'll get to Isaiah 53 very soon. Look at Jonah. Jonah chapters 1. I want you to pay attention here. 3, but let's start from the top. And the word of Yah came to Jonah, son of Amittai, saying, Arise, go to Nineveh, the great city, and proclaim against it, for their evil has come before me. Verses 3 is my focus. And Jonah arose to flee to Tarshish from before Yah. And he went down to Joppa, found a ship going to Tarshish, paid it hire, and went down into it to come with them to Tarshish from before Yah. What is Jonah doing? He's running away, right? Is he going somewhere that he will not be seen? I mean, what is his intention? Like, does it make sense? Does it make sense? Verses 3. Does it make sense?
Man, he's avoiding his assignments. You know, it makes sense to Jonah. Hey, I'm going to run away. But, you know.
Correct. Can you run away?
Can you ever really run away from God?
Yeah, can you run away from before? Yeah. We say he sees everything. He's everywhere. So what does it mean to run away from before Yah? Anybody? What does it? Because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. You cannot run away from before Yah. Jonah knows something. He knows something. Or whoever is writing this is taking for granted that we know something.
Rabbi, maybe he think he's running somewhere where you don't even mention Yah. Yah is not known in a foreign land. You know what I'm saying? Because they may have not have heard of Yahweh Mahu. They may have not have heard of him. So what happened is, if I think I'm going somewhere over here, out the way, you know, in this little obscure corner of the world, that Yah won't even be mentioned, and they ain't gonna know what I'm even over here for.
Yeah, correct. But Yah still sees him. Is Jonah thinking that if I say it again?
I think was he trying to kill himself? Run away like. Correct.
No, he is. But can you run away from before Yah? You know, he's everywhere. He sees everything. So what does it mean he's running away from before Yah? Where is he going?
Is it more of a state of mind of him being at a place of shame?
Negative. He's moving geographically. He's going to some place.
So the question becomes, why is he leaving? Question is, why is he leaving Israel or the face of Yah or that's the way I would put it there.
Very good question. What did Mr. D say? Why is he leaving Israel? Why is he leaving? So the face of Yah before Yah would mean what?
Jerusalem or Israel.
Israel. You see how things changes here. So you cannot read. We know that clearly nobody can run away before you. No, it's not. But the guy is changing location, and the text is telling me that he's running away from before Yah. He's running away from the land of Israel. What is his thought? If he runs away from the land of Israel, what would happen? And Yah won't speak to him. Because he holds the idea that Yah only gives prophecy in the land of Israel. That is what the rabbis teach. The rabbis teach that. But that is not accurate because he gets prophecy. I can give you some people who got prophecy from out of the land of Israel. But this is how the rabbis reconcile it. But leaving Israel, going somewhere else, it's said to believe in before. He's running from before. Yeah. They say his eyes are always pointed to Israel, the land of Israel. That's what the rabbis teach. Don't take it to the bank. Mr. Jason, please. So when the text says someone is cut off from the land of the living, it doesn't always mean death. It can mean exile. The land of the living can be the land of Israel. David calls him the living God. And he says that the land is holy. It belongs to him. If you mess up, the land will puke you out. Just to give you an idea of how to sometimes read the text of the Tanakh. Sometimes they say things that you have to really look at it because it doesn't make sense. And you find out, oh, this is what is happening. Awesome. What time do I have? Okay, any other contributions, questions? We'll continue where we stopped from next week. We're going back to the book of Exodus. If you're on YouTube and you want to join those classes, it's not going to be broadcasted on YouTube. These were special sessions, so you can go on our website and check us out if you're interested. But anyone has some last words before we go? So I hope I did not spoil the narrative of Samson for you. I hope we brought some clarity to it, that the restrictions, most of the restrictions were on the parents, not him. His only restriction was his hair. But the parent had to exercise some restraint because it is needed for the growth, for the psychological growth, how Samson interacts with the world. The parent had to show him that by their restraint. Did they do it? Did they not do it? We really cannot tell. We can argue for both ways. Maybe they did it. Maybe they did a beautiful job and he just went wayward. Maybe there were some struggles at home and he went wayward. Whatever the case, I think the lesson that we learn from it is that our children learn a lot from what we do, how we live, characters that we demonstrate. They pick a lot of their learnings from that. So at a young age, we have to start teaching them how to problem solve. We need to teach them about finances. If we leave it to the TV screens, what they would see is that you can get a credit card and just swipe and get whatever you want. You see, children they are customers. We need to reach them before our competition reaches them. We are all selling the same goods. We are selling love, we are selling happiness, we are selling financial stability. So either we tell them that save and buy what you want, or use your credit card, but this is how it works. Teach them what love is. No, everybody is, whatever we are advertising in our store, which is our homes, someone outside is advertising as the same thing. So we need to reach them first and teach them before they go to college and someone teaches them otherwise. And we want to be able to teach them so that they will keep coming to our store to buy. And then they can bring more customers, which is our grandkids, to our store. to also purchase what we are selling. If the TV gets to them first, advertising is just done to capture you. And when you see that beautiful model standing by the car that you cannot afford, you want to get the car because of the model, not because you have the money. So now we come in and say, hey, you know what? Let me teach you how to be financially independent, secure. Teach them now how to start businesses. If that is where, if they are inclined to it. We are all selling products. Make your product more attractive so they will come back to your stores to buy. How beautiful are the tents of Jacob, the dwellings of Israel. Balaam says it perfectly. Let us take that to the bank. Let us reach out to our children. Let us set good examples so that our dwellings will be beautiful. May Yah bless us all. May He keep us. May He shine His face upon us. May He give us wisdom, understanding, so we can apply them. Awesome. I think my job is done here. Enjoy the rest of your week. We'll get back to... No, not tomorrow. I won't do the webinar. No. So I will schedule the webinar and I'll send out an email so that you can register for the esoteric stuff. But enjoy the rest of your week. Shabbat Shalom, Israel. Was that when I'm Cynthia? Shabbat Shalom.
Rabbi, don't forget tomorrow.
Tomorrow? Okay, I hear.
Shabbat Shalom.
Or
Shabbat
it
Shalom.
could be midnight because that's 3 a.m. my time.
Yes,
which
sir,
is
right?
tomorrow.
Shabbat Shalom, Israel.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat
Thank you for
Shalom.
coming back, Lord. Thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Have a
You're
good
welcome.
week.
Shabbat
Shabbat
Shalom.
Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Mr. D still here?
Mr. D still here? I think so.
Yeah, he is. Mr. D.
Yes.
You gotta
Yes, I'm here. Go ahead.
We'll remind Rabbi. Okay, let's stay on.
Okay.
All right. No, I'm just playing. Have a great day.
Alright. Waiting for that commentary.
Yes, sir. Obviously, you can tell how excited we are. Yes.
I know. I'm waiting for that commentary on the book of Proverbs. You better make it happen.
No, but listen. Yeah, I've given you the intro, and that's basically it.
That's basically it.
Most
Oh
people
boy.
think that it's only about wisdom. Yes, no, and what I mean by that is this: is that what I realize is this: it takes twice as much discipline as it does wisdom, because wisdom can be for the moment, but discipline is for a lifetime. It's like riding a bike. If you have the discipline, it'll come back.
Correct.
If you only have wisdom, it's like cramming for a test. You have it for a day, you don't remember it next week.
True. Nice.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes. But that's basically the introduction to Proverbs.
To Proverbs.
Because it's more than just wisdom. Yes.
Nice. Awesome. I want to thank those on YouTube. Thank you for listening in. I hope we're able to shed some insight on the book of Judges, Samson's narrative, So we would all learn to do better. Let's set good examples and let's make our dwellings beautiful. Enjoy the rest of your week. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.